Hi everybody, it's Luke here and I'm going to be doing your Monday devotional for you. Today we're going to be looking at Psalm 91. I thought it would be good amongst this time of lockdown as it is being referred to. And we're looking at the coronavirus and all these things that are going on at the moment, that we would find a little bit of hope in Psalm 91 in knowing that God is in control of even the most deadly and dangerous and chaotic circumstances. So let's get right into it. I'm going to read from Psalm 91 in the ESV if you're following, and then I'll go through a few points that I think are really going to help us and bring us some hope at this time. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, the Most High, who is my refuge, no evil shall be allowed to befall you, no plague come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. Because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him, I will protect him, because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. A very encouraging psalm. It's often known in many church circles as a spiritual warfare psalm. It's a psalm that people will pray through to try and defeat demonic attack or some kind of dark forces that are trying to come against maybe the church or the individual, for example, because it talks about trampling on adders and lions. And this is sort of imagery you might find in the New Testament in certain places that has to do with metaphors for demons. So in a New Testament context, this would be used potentially as a spiritual warfare psalm, maybe a general encouragement in chaotic circumstances like we're going through now. And in Old Testament times, it definitely would have been something that would have been utilized when enemies were trying to invade. You were, I guess, like David often is in his psalms, afraid of being taken over by their enemies, things like that, where there's chaos is occurring, it's dangerous times, and you're looking for hope and comfort in the truth that God is above it all, greater than it all. He's stronger than any problem, and that he is going to bring us through it. And so that's the message I want us to take away from today. God is stronger, and he's going to bring us through it. Okay? I'm not going to go through every verse. I'm just going to gather some verses together and talk on some basic topics. Okay? So let's have a look. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. I think in this time it's good to know that trusting God is the greatest thing we can do. Now, what does it mean to trust God? Well, at the actual core of the idea of faith is trust. So if you say, I have faith in Jesus Christ, I have faith in God, what you're really saying is, I trust the Bible is accurate. It is something that we can put our hope in, that isn't a lie or trying to deceive us. I trust that Jesus is who he says he is, and Jesus is who his followers says he is, that he is the Son of God. I trust that God is not only able, but wanting to deliver us, protect us, keep us safe. So when it comes to the idea of trust, it's a very core idea to the Christian faith, because Christianity is fundamentally relational. Jesus said to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. He summed up rules and regulations from the days of the Old Testament to mean right relationship. I think that's something we need to remember. When it comes to trusting God, we're not trusting an idea, we're trusting a person. If you can get that idea, deep into your mind, that you know when you come across a situation like we're in right now with coronavirus and everything else, we're not trusting in the ideas of a sermon. We're not trusting in the philosophy of a preacher. We're trusting in the person of Jesus Christ. And because he's a person, he is trustworthy. He's proven himself to be worthy of our trust. Why? Because he came back from the dead like he said he would. He proved that he was not just a man, he was in fact the Son of God. So in these tumultuous times, trusting in the Lord to be our fortress, to be a place of refuge, that's where we need to start. If we go on, we see some verses from verse 3 to verse 6. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler, deadly pestilence. He'll put us under his wings. You see, not to fear things at night time, things that fly like arrows during the day. That would be a sense of warfare or invasion. Pestilence, that's disease or viruses like we're talking about with coronavirus. Destruction that wastes at noonday. That could be anything. A storm, a tornado, a typhoon, a tsunami. It doesn't matter what it is. They're covering all the bases here in Psalm 91 and saying God's greater than all. God is greater than any disaster, any disease, any war, any invasion. God is bigger. So we can put our hope in that and find comfort in that, although it just seems like madness at the moment, like unprecedented times, people locked away in their homes, etc., we can find comfort in knowing that God knew this was going to happen. God knows what's going to happen next, and nothing surprises him, and nothing is outside of his control. Okay? If we move on here, we have some famous verses in verse 7 to 8. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. Now, I'm not making any judgments on what coronavirus is. There are people out there trying to do that. I don't think that's wise. I think we should just say from these verses that God's people are kept safe. Okay? It doesn't mean you can't get sick, you can't have a bug, you can't have a flu, you can't, hurt yourself, break your arm, whatever it might mean. Plenty of Christians do that. We've all done things like that. It's not saying that. It's saying that ultimately, when the devastation comes, whether it's a war, a virus, something else, God gets his people through it. Okay? So we may be seeing everything fall apart around us, 10,000 all around, 1,000 at our side, these sort of ideas, but God is still our refuge. We don't have to panic. And that's one of the things that's happening at the moment. People are panicking. And so we can just rest in the idea that God is in control. It says here, because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, the Most High, who is my refuge, no evil shall be allowed to befall you, no plague come near your tent. No plague come near your tent. Very comforting. God's in control of diseases. God's in control of all these things. Now that raises a few strange questions, but at this time, I haven't got time to go into all those answers, so you can certainly ponder those and pray through those in your own time. But what it does mean is that nothing's outside of God's control. As we go on, it says God will command his angels to look after us. That's very comforting. It says we will tread on the lion and the adder. The young lion and the serpent will trample underfoot. That could be an image in the Old Testament of your enemies, in the New Testament of demonic forces. So regardless of whether a human being is coming against you or some dark spiritual force, God is greater than those too. He says in the end, because he holds fast to me in love, I'll deliver him. I'll protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I'll be with him in trouble. I'll rescue him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Now, if that doesn't bring you hope, I don't know what will. Okay? This is a fantastic and encouraging part of Scripture. It says, because he holds fast to me in love. Remember what I said before about relationships? Because he holds fast to me, or she holds fast to me in love. That means grabbing onto God, kind of like if you imagine a tornado is coming through and you're holding onto something and you're not going to let that tornado drag you off. You're holding onto part of your house, you're holding onto a car, whatever it might be. You know, you might even be flailing in the air like a leaf, but you're still holding on, you're not letting go. That's the image here. Doesn't matter what's coming your way, you're not letting go of God. In love, you love him, you trust him, you're holding on to him. All right? Because we're doing that, God says, I'll deliver you. Because you look at me and you see goodness, you see trustworthiness, you see faithfulness, God says, I will be with you. He says, I'll protect you. He goes, when you call, when you pray to God, he'll answer you. That's comforting. Sometimes it can seem like God doesn't even hear the prayers, let alone answers them. But he says, yes, I will. I will answer. He hears the call. He will answer. He says, I'll be with you in trouble. Now there you go, right? People that might use this psalm to say that no trouble will ever come near you, you can't teach that. Because it says here, God will be with you in trouble. It's right there in the same psalm. Okay, so as Jesus said, we will have rough days, but be at peace. He's defeated the world. Okay, he's defeated the dark forces that are controlling this world. So we don't have to worry about them ultimately because Jesus is the victor. So what we have here is he says he'll answer our prayers, he'll be with us in trouble, he'll rescue us, right? Once again, God can't rescue you unless you're in trouble. So if you get into trouble, God can still rescue you. So don't worry. If you've got yourself into some kind of a bad situation or some disaster happens, don't worry. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong with God. God's still going to deliver you from it. Okay? He says, with long life I will satisfy him or her and show them my salvation. You know, long life in the Bible is known to be a blessing. It's a blessing of God to have long life. Not everybody gets it, and they can still be loved by God and still go on to heaven with Jesus. But what he's saying here is that when you trust in God, ultimately you're going to have the best. Okay, now what that means is not without trouble. That's often confusing, isn't it? You hear people preaching about getting the best now and all this sort of stuff, and they think it means no trouble. Incorrect. Trouble often comes our way to make us stronger. Trouble often comes our way to make us trust in the Lord more. It's a bit more complicated than that, but that's a general idea of what it means. But at the end of the day, trouble also exists because we live in a fallen world. The devil's at work, the demons are at work, and people are doing their bidding. And so as Christians, we need to be doing the bidding of Jesus in bringing light, life, peace, truth, love into the world and standing against the wickedness of those who would seek to do the devil's work. Exposing the darkness, as Paul says elsewhere in his letters. But what we can do in these times definitely for people is to bring them hope, encouragement, peace. I mean, it might be via a phone, it might be via online. You don't know because we're all sort of in our lockdown sort of situation. But what it does mean is that number one, God is faithful. Number two, God is greater than everything that could be thrown at us, good, bad, or indifferent. And number three, when we put our trust in God, even if the trouble comes, we're going to get through it. We're going to walk into a fire, but we're going to walk out of that fire. Okay, guys, just a small little add-on to the end here, just in case you misunderstood what I was saying, and I'm going to make myself very clear. Because God is strong, because God is in control, because God delivers us, all those sort of things, doesn't mean we don't follow the guidelines we've been given. We've been given guidelines by the government. We've been told to, stay in our homes unless it's necessary, to wash our hands, to maybe wear a mask, all these sort of guidelines to keep social distancing. As Christians, we need to still do these things. All right, so don't hear me incorrectly. God is in control. God will deliver us. God protects us. It's all great. But you still have to keep doing the things we've been told to do. That's all I wanted to say today, guys. I hope that's encouraging. Have a great week, guys.